All right, welcome back to another Crimson Flyboy Starfield recap. So, today we are going to be talking about a few things. So, obviously, um, how do I say in good terms? So, we last or not too long ago, actually. I think the news regarding the Microsoft layoffs. They hit, like, when was that? I think they hit Friday, I think Thursday or Friday. Now there's been more kind of confirmation since then about the layoffs, and thankfully, um, Starfield seems to, or Bethesda as a whole seems to have escaped them. I'm just going to briefly kind of go over the companies that have been confirmed, just for clarity, because, like, while we're talking about Starfield, I feel like it's good to kind of look at kind of other game companies and just kind of see the state of Xbox and Microsoft as a whole. So the initiative developer was basically shut down, and they were working on Perfect Dark. Apparently, they've been working on Perfect Dark for over 5 years, which is a bit of a, honestly, that's a bit of a big hit. I've never played Perfect Dark, but I know it's an iconic Xbox title, and from what I've seen of the gameplay when they showed it off at one of the Xbox showcases, honestly, it looked really interesting, and it looks like something Xbox needed, in my opinion. Um, I yeah. Again, we don't know for definite with all of these whether or not, like, Xbox owned the rights to them. At any point they could bring them back. I do wonder though, like, with the example of Perfect Dark, like, being in the work for 5 years, and, like, 5 plus years, and it looked, from what we've seen of the gameplay, it looked kind of ready to go. And obviously we didn't know much about the gameplay. We were it could have been a demo, but it is weird to just completely shut the studio, like, I feel like Bethesda's whole, or sorry, not Bethesda, apologies. Xbox's big thing now, this big push, is Game Pass, right? And, like, it's been very clear that Xbox have been kind of pushing a lot of games that, like, you would probably argue, like, there's probably a bit of a negative connotation with Game Pass, in that, like, when you look at a game nowadays and it looks kind of average, let's say, and you're like, oh, it's going to be on Game Pass. And I think, in my opinion, Xbox have put out some games on Game Pass that I do think are quite average, but obviously Xbox have kind of pushed them quite heavily. It is weird that they didn't just commit to the Perfect Dark. Like, they've clearly already sank time into it. Like, was it a case of there was just 5 plus years and nothing came from it? But obviously, yeah, that is quite sad. Another one, Rare was working on Everwild, which was it was a fantasy game with animals, campfires. They don't, obviously, we don't know the exactly how many people at Rare have left, but apparently the studio lead of that has left the company, which is a weird one. Rare is a developer which, again, they made their biggest game currently, I would believe, is Sea of Thieves. And I'm gonna be honest with you, while I beta tested Sea of Thieves, I did alpha tested Sea of Thieves. I'm one of the original. I initially enjoyed where it was coming from. I thought it was a cool game. It's kind of expanded into something, and I love nautical games. I love anything where you can sail a ship or pilot a ship, be it in space, water, whatever. The biggest kind of issue with Sea of Thieves, in my opinion, was that it was very much a kind of a PvP style game, which is weird considering Rare's sort of whole thing is kind of very much arcadey, kind of like play with your family sort of thing. And you could definitely play Sea of Thieves with your family. I've just gotten bullied a lot by people when I'm trying to fish, so I just kind of gave up. But that's a kind of a weird one that Rare, yeah. Project Blackbird, which was ZeniMax, they were working on it for 3 years. It was supposed to release in 2028. This is the only technically Bethesda stuff that has basically kind of hit Bethesda. So, from what we know, it was an MMORPG being developed by the ESO team. It was noir team and had a big focus on traversal. I don't know what traversal means necessarily, but again, I do find it interesting that, for the most part, like, ESO, I would like to guess, ESO has easily made its money with Elder Scrolls Online. Like, they've clearly made ZeniMax bank, and now are going to be making Microsoft bank. So it's weird that you don't let them do it, like, unless it was just something that, like, maybe like, maybe Bethesda were okay with them doing, where Xbox kind of was like, that doesn't match up with their branding. I will say, I feel like MMO style games probably don't necessarily fit with Xbox's whole thing. And this is just personal opinion and kind of speculation, because MMO games generally require you to play them quite frequently and only play them. Like, if you're a fan of ESO, you could easily spend, like, you could spend hundreds of hours playing it and be like, what's any other game? You know, like, only ESO is life. And I feel like maybe Microsoft doesn't like that idea, because they want you to play more games. They want you to play Game Pass. They want you to, do all this sort of stuff. So there was other studio, Romero Games, which was they were working on upcoming FPS. John Romero, they did Doom and Wolfenstein. I don't know what they were working on. So yeah, it's a weird one. What's a very, very weird one? So there's a rumor that, again, I'm reading this off of an article, but for True Achievements, that Turn 10 Games, who make Forza, lost 50% of their talent. 50%. So apparently, there's been a rogue source that sim racing style Forza games are done. Now, I will say, Forza has always been at the forefront of Xbox when it comes to stuff. It's one of the most iconic Xbox games out there. I personally prefer the Forza Horizon games, the ones that are like open world. And again, I could kind of see why Xbox might shy away from them, the more mainstream, sim racing, because it has a smaller player base. That being said, why does every game need to be accessible to all? Like, I think that's one of the issues with Starfield, and you can kind of see it with Bethesda. If you kind of go the route of, like, you look at, say, the jump from Oblivion to Skyrim, Fallout 3 to Fallout 4, Bethesda have clearly tried to tweak their games to make them more accessible. Like, they've kind of they changed the perk skill system in Skyrim to be more easily to understand. More kind of players have direct control over them. With Fallout, they kind of went with a more kind of a better gunplay, and they opted to have a kind of a, dialogue where the character talks. I think they were hoping with the dialogue talks, it would bring in more people who were looking for more casual kind of story gameplay, people who skip through cutscenes and don't really read much, whereas with the talking. And Starfield is now in a position where, like, it's added a lot of stuff that is really awesome, but it's added stuff that, like, is clearly trying to cater to a wider audience. And personally, I'm not a fan of that. Like, Halo has kind of been in a similar boat where they've been trying to cater to a wider audience. And with a game like Halo, I can kind of understand it, because multiplayer games, you kind of, they're a harder sell, because, like, multiplayer games, you have to be kind of decent at the games. If you're not a fan of multiplayer PvP, whereas single player games are kind of different, because you can kind of trot along at your own pace. But yeah, it's very interesting. I am glad that Bethesda, there's been no, like, cuts regarding Bethesda, which makes me think a couple of things. First and foremost, the fact that, like, because obviously Bethesda are working on more than just Starfield. They're working on Fallout, and they're working on Elder Scrolls, and probably some other titles. And when I'm talking about Bethesda, I'm talking about Bethesda Softworks, like the Todd Howard team that like only makes Elder Scrolls and Fallout. I'm not talking about, like, the team that would make, like, say, for instance, Indiana Jones or stuff like that. But my assumption is that well, see, I was going to say that, like, Xbox would prefer to keep a hands-off approach to Bethesda and not mess with them. But the ESO kind of, like, stuff, like ZeniMax losing some staff, makes me think that that's not the case. And maybe it's just a case that that Starfield has content coming. We know Starfield has content coming. It's been confirmed by multiple sources now that it's coming. We don't know when. We know that there's a Fallout 3 remaster in the works. We know that they're working on Elder Scrolls 6, and we know that they're working on Fallout 5. I think it's Fallout 5. We assume. I'm assuming that with the success of the TV show, because there was rumors with the success of the Fallout TV show that Microsoft wanted, or Xbox wanted, Bethesda to kind of push Elder Scrolls 6 to the side and make Fallout 5 basically. While I do think I understand that from a kind of an advertisement kind of like monetization point of view, or like monetary point, economical, whatever you say, because obviously people watch the show and they're like, damn, I want to jump into this, you know. Like I would I would like to imagine that after the success of The Witcher on Netflix, there was probably a massive uptick in people that played The Witcher that had never really touched gaming, you know. That being said, Elder Scrolls is Bethesda's bread and butter, and while they do a good job with Fallout, you know, they know how to make Elder Scrolls, you know. I think that they're probably more comfortable with Elder Scrolls, given that Starfield obviously has received kind of a bit of a lukewarm reception. I think that a lot of people are, you know, doubting Bethesda's abilities, which is understandable, you know. Like, Starfield didn't sell as well as it would. It was missing a lot of features that was kind of prevalent in previous Bethesda games. And as much as I enjoy it, like, there's no point beating around the bush, you know, like, it's lacking certain things. And I mean, content is one of the big ones, ship parts, obviously. So I would like to imagine that Bethesda probably wants their next game to be Elder Scrolls, so that they can kind of show like that. Look, we're still here. We know what we're doing. Starfield might have been a bit of a flop in some people's eyes, but we're still going to work with it. But obviously, we know our stuff when it comes to Elder Scrolls 6. Now, I will say, there is a part of me that is excited to see what happens. I would love to kind of fast forward 10 years, or maybe not 10 years, but because Bethesda have said many times that they want to kind of keep this Starfield going as long as possible. Todd has mentioned before that they regret not doing extended content with games like Fallout and Skyrim. So it would be interesting to see in a world in the future when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, if, like, imagine if Bethesda was updating Starfield alongside Elder Scrolls 6. In a perfect world, given the size of their studio and the money they have, you would like to think that's definitely possible. But currently, that's more of a question than a surefire fact. Considering we've heard nothing from them since, nothing major content-wise since October. We've got some minor bug fixes and stuff, but we've heard nothing from them about what's coming next, aside from the fact that they said they're working on something and we'll know soon. Soon meaning who the fuck knows. We're going to speculate Gamescom. Realistically, that's when we saw Shattered Space. That's when we'll see Bethesda stuff. But yeah, I am hopeful. I mean, it's tough being a Starfield fan, you know? Not only do you have everyone and their mother telling you, oh, the game's shit, which these days I'm starting to be like, you know what? While I don't think the game is shit, I do think you have a point in your dislike towards the game, because it seems like Bethesda failed to handle the situation. I know people are going to be like, oh, they're just going to shadow drop stuff. That doesn't work anymore. Like, it works with, like, one-off titles or remasters, but, like, when you have Starfield, which is literally a new IP, you can't be silent with it. You need to be making clear to your fans, this is the route we're going, because that can draw in fans. It can also push away fans that might be might be kind of living on hope. Like, an example is, like, and I've said, like, I'm a big shipbuilder thing, and I will definitely I'll be playing Starfield and covering it. But, like, if they come out and say, yeah, we're not really going to focus on the ship parts, a part of me will die inside, but also a part of me will probably move away from the game, from the shipbuilding aspect. I'll still obviously build ships, but yeah, like, I'm not saying obviously they would be stupid to do that. but it's kind of like why like I believe they should kind of highlight what they're going to do, because there's people here that are like hoping that Bethesda adds ship parts, you know. There's people here who are hoping that they'll overhaul the base game. There's people here hoping that they'll overhaul the outpost system. I would like to see all of these things. Realistically, will we get all of these things fixed? Probably not. It really depends. I will say, and this is kind of going into the other topic, Watchtower helped. It boosted Starfield's player base, and it was a really good content. It was the first non-Bethesda content that we've ever gotten that I'm like, this is awesome. And it kind of like, after finishing it, it kind of made me be like, now imagine what Bethesda can do, you know? Because King Gath and the team did a phenomenal job. It was phenomenal. But then I suppose instead of it being like, now imagine what Bethesda can do with enthusiasm, it's like more like a question, like, now imagine what could Bethesda do? I will say, on the topic of King Gath, I've seen some people kind of talk about it, and I kind of wanted to address it a little bit. So it's like, there's no point denying it, right? Like, I think on paper it's very clear that King Gath and his team make tremendous mods. Watchtower is hands down the best paid mod we've gotten for Starfield. Like, there's no beating around the bush there, you know. You can't even like look at it objectively. Like, the thing has sold phenomenally. Let me actually check the stats on like how good it is sold. Watch it like have sold very little. It hasn't sold very little. Starfield creations. Ba-da-da-da. There it is there. So just looking at the details, oh my dear lord. On Xbox, it's got 14,000 bookmarks on Xbox, right? And 8,000 bookmarks on PC. It's got over 1 million plays on both Xbox and PC. Now, the plays doesn't mean much. That just means every time it's using a save. We can argue that realistically, it's probably made at least 10,000 sales, probably more, given the fact of like the plays. Like, even if we equate the plays to like 1 million plays, like even if we equate that to like, I'd say it's easily sold over 10,000 copies, probably sold closer to maybe 20, 30,000. I'm just going off of, I'm not sure. I might have to actually hit up King Gath and ask, but I don't know if they'd want to tell me. Just because obviously that's private information and stuff, but we can like it's done exceedingly well for them. I would like to assume, given the response and the fact that everyone and their mother is now basically like, Watchtower set the star battle standard, which it has. But just because Watchtower has set a standard doesn't mean that like you're not like. Here's the thing, right? It's going to be very hard to find mods that will compare to Watchtower, because King Gath Creations is a team of like they're essentially like a game development team that primarily focuses on making mods for Bethesda games. Okay, there's one or two companies or game kind of teams that exist currently for Starfield. And I don't know if they're still active. I know King Gath and his team are still extremely active, and they still have a lot of ideas for Starfield. But that aside, I've like reviewed a couple of mods, right, throughout the time. Like, I'm gonna give you an example here, a bit of a shout out. Where is it? Is it there? Looking for the exact name of it because Crimson has to make sure. Not there, are you serious? What the... So it's where is it? Give me 1 second, I apologize. I'm trying to find it. There we go. So Improvised Weapons by Anvil Creations. Anvil Creations is a new team. It consists of I feel like it's not not wrong me saying this. It consists of Kordic, who has done some phenomenal mods in the original Fleet Commander. They've done the was it the framework mod that allows you, apologies, I'm really bad with names of things, the framework mod that allows you to basically jail people. Lots of awesome mods. And then Malloy, who has done he did the Starborn style armor that looked really, really awesome. I can't think of the name of it. Is it Neverborn? And also a stable edition. They're working together now to basically, with Anvil Creations, they've done the improvised weapons. It's 200 credits. It's €2. It basically implements IEDs in the game, like kind of like remotely detonated kind of explosives. Very, very cool. Like, I think it's an awesome addition. Starfield doesn't have remote detonated items, and to be honest, explosives in general in Starfield are a bit lackluster. I think it's a very awesome mod, and honestly, it's one that I would say like vanilla-like, in that like it's something that could easily exist in the game, and I love mod authors that do that when they bring in stuff that makes sense, the lore. But I've seen some people that have kind of been like, oh, you know, like comparing it to Watchtower, right? And like, look, if you're gonna go that route of comparing mods to Watchtower, which you're fully entitled to, you're not gonna find very many, if any, mods. Because like I said, Watchtower is like a development team, you know? They have a lot of money behind them because they've produced some banging content, you know? And I'm not saying money is not everything, but also experience and all that sort of stuff. Whereas like an example like this, like the improvised explosive device, like it's Watchtower is a tenner, right? Now Watchtower, they put it at a price point that they felt that they realistically, you could have put Watchtower at €20 and I would have still bought it. And I think a lot of people would have still bought it. I think realistically, Watchtower sits at that price point. The fact that it's lower, honestly, is amazing. Amazing for the fans. But it obviously opens up this window of people being like, oh, it's a tenner. So that means like if a mod is 500, it has to be half as good as Watchtower. And like, I don't think so. Like the IED mod, 200 credits, it's €2. It's really cool. You know, like it's clearly a lot of work has went into it. Like I would argue that like the level of kind of finish and detail is up there with Watchtower in terms of what it does and what it's trying to do, you know? There's other mods out there that like, you know, like are quite close to, in my opinion, they're on the same level of Watchtower in what they're trying to achieve, you know? Like another example you'll hear me mention quite frequently, Xenomaster. It's a free mod, there's an achievement-friendly version. Like obviously in terms of like, let's say for instance, again, with you compared to Watchtower, it's not really a comparison. Watchtower is a story-based kind of quest with some shipbuilding aspects. Xenomaster is all about catching and taming Xenos and giving them unique perks, unique outfits, unique abilities, all that sort of stuff. But it's the same level of polish and the same level of kind of not completion, I suppose that's probably the wrong word. But yeah, I think ultimately there's a lot of mods out there that I think are on the same level of Watchtower. And this is obviously just my opinion, and you guys are free to disagree. But I do think that if you are in the comments like saying like, oh, you know, Watchtower, this isn't as good as Watchtower and stuff like that, like I think you need to lower your expectations, because again, very few mods are going to reach Watchtower's level of kind of what it added, you know? I think that's pretty much it in terms of Starfield news. I will say, I have some exciting news that I will be talking about a little more in a future instance, but let's just say there will be a stream in the near future that will be longer than normal. That's all I'm saying for now regarding that. And just thinking about it in my head, I'm like, what am I going to get myself into? This is going to be a nightmare. But you know, you'll know more as we go. I'll probably mention more about that next week. I will say shipbuilding, you will see more ship stuff on the channel. I have a backlog of probably 20 to 30 ships that I built on stream that I want to do videos on, because while the streams obviously do good, one of the issues with streams is that once a stream goes live and then kind of the live finishes, it'll, generally speaking, it stays up for an indeterminate amount of time on like the channel, and I think it stays up until it's a weird one, because sometimes I've had streams stay in my like kind of my stay in my kind of like recent content for like a day or two. Sometimes it disappears after a couple of hours, but the way YouTube does the streaming sort of stuff, streams by default get put into their own little category. They don't get put in. They don't get put in. Like they don't. Streams by default won't get put in your recommended feed or in your kind of watch now sort of stuff. And I have debated. I've debated uploading them, and I will say, people, this is a question to you guys in the comments. People that watch my content and like may not reach my streams, because not everyone's going to be able to reach my streams. Would you see a benefit of me uploading the streams as a kind of a separate video, so that one, it would be recommended? I will say, if I do upload it, because when I do my streams live, I don't turn ads on, because realistically it's not worth it monetarily. Like a single $2 donation, if I get that, which sometimes I'm not saying that if I get that, not saying it in a negative way, but like realistically, I'd probably only make about €1 on a stream, you know, if I was to go that route. So even a single euro donation is already kind of paid for the ads for the stream. So I don't have ads in. Now, if I was to upload it, there would be significantly more ads to the stream. I don't know how it is currently. I don't know if uploaded streams, let me know if you do watch my streams afterwards, is there like ads? I don't enable ads if there is. But I do know that from a monetary point of view, if I was to, long form content does extremely well. So if I was to upload, like, and here's an example, right? If I was to upload one of my streams, right, and let's say it was 2 hours long, and even if only like if 1,000 people watched that video, it would make more revenue than, let's say, a 20-minute mod review that got 10,000 views. It's kind of crazy like that. YouTube tends to prioritize longer content the better, which I guess that's just because of more ads. But yeah, let me know if you do watch my streams after the fact, is there ads in it? Do you receive ads? And also, if you do watch my content, but like let's say you don't get to catch the streams or you watch them later, would you be open to the idea of me uploading them as like an actual video? Like I said, it would obviously monetarily wise, it would be beneficial for me. But I'm at the point now where like I do this as it's a hobby. Obviously, like I'm grateful that the support you guys give. I try not to be too like pushy with stuff. Like that's why I don't turn on ads on the stream videos, because one, it's funny. I turned them on one time and someone was getting ads of teaching your dog how to dance. Someone was getting ads to do with an erectile dysfunction. It was pretty funny. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'll obviously test it, but obviously I'd like to know what you guys think regarding stuff like that. Let me just really quickly check now if we got any questions from last week. I don't know if we did, but we're going to see. Did we get some questions? I'm just looking. I see one thing I have noticed recently, and then this is kind of me. This is obviously an opinion piece, but it seems like there is a group of people who watch my content that would be. You could maybe argue that they are more in favor of defending mod authors than defending the users. Now, I'm not going to say everyone is, obviously, because that's a very bad generalization. But like last week's video, no questions, sadly. Or if there is, I might miss them. Last week's recap, I basically talked about how like you shouldn't be putting your mods on Xbox if you don't test them, and like. Anytime I do a video talking about paid mods and if paid mods don't work, people seem to miss the point. People will either blame me and say that I must be doing something wrong with my content. Like I must be purposely misleading people. I've had mod authors actually accuse me of misrepresenting their mods, which that's very egregious. I will admit, when I do my videos, sometimes I can be quite idiotic with stuff, but I would never, anytime I've ever like had issues with a mod, I always make sure the issues are set with the mod. That's why I only run vanilla with the only mod enabled, the mod I'm using. And plus, I've always been of the opinion of being open and honest when I like something, when I dislike something, you know? Like, yeah, and while I do find it like, look, there is times when I feel like with using mods specifically, there is a level of user error, and if you're downloading a paid mod and you're throwing it into the mix with you've got a load order of 150 mods, mainly mods that make Gary snort Aurora faster, there's obviously a high probability you're going to run into problems, right? But if I'm testing a mod vanilla again with no other mods and I'm having problems, that's not user error at all. That's the mod author themselves, you know? And there has been times where, like, basically where I've reviewed mods and had issues with them, and the mod author themselves has come out and been like, oh yeah, that's an issue, but it's like a minor one. And I'm like, my guy, you're making my game crash. How the fuck do you how is that fucking minor? You know? Minor in what regard? Can I see what fucking major is? Is major my Xbox turning into an improvised explosive device and blowing my fucking nipples off? But yeah, like, again, conversation is always great, you know. Dialogue, you always want to have a form of dialogue. We'll have difference of opinions, you know. I will always say, like, while I enjoy mods and I enjoy reviewing mods, I am primarily an Xbox gamer who is trying to look out for the users, because money don't grow on trees, you know. And if I can help you make an educated decision on whether or not you enjoy a mod, I will do that. That being said, just because I don't like a mod doesn't mean that you won't, you know? Like, I'm sure there's probably been mods I reviewed where I was like, I'm not really a fan of this, but people have still bought it because they are, you know? I think the only instance in which I hope people don't buy mods is when I'm doing a review and it's broken. But that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, question it out. Tomorrow will be tomorrow will either be a mod review or a ship review video, but I have a ship review and a mod review covered, and then obviously it'll be Friday plus when we get the new mods and stuff. But yeah, let me know anyway, respond to, you know, the stuff I've asked, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. I am going to go outside and touch grass because my skin is as pale as Count Dracula. And I'm going to enjoy some sun for about a half an hour before it rains. But yeah, have a good rest of your day, guys, and bye-bye.